nephew of Helen Hellman. I think everybody here knows me. Go back maybe 40 years, I mean, at least at the, Ashley is the major link. I came in sort of after that, and we were like roommates for a while, and then he moved over there. So that's the timeline, basically. But John had been renting and been a good friend of Helen for a long time, and I certainly want to welcome you all here and thank you for coming. And I just really want to say thank you for Islesford and the people who helped us. Ted Sperling, who was very helpful. Dale Hadlock, who was just a gem.
Okay, just have you.
The women are doing their job. That's all I can say. My wife wiped my lips, and so I'm all set. And so, but I want to thank them and Kara Sperling and Ann Fernald and the people who are responsible for this particular cemetery, and all for you to come out here and express your memories, and that's really what it's about. I'm going to give you just a little bit of a background of sort of why we ended up here, and then I'm going to let John just read this obituary, and we'll just go through it. But about in 1974, and you'll see this inside your pamphlet, Helen had registered a plot on her property for being buried, and she gave me a copy of it, I guess thinking that I'm going to outlive her, and I did. And when she got closer to that time, I presented it to her, and she didn't really make too much expression as to what was going on. And so when she did die, we had these ashes, and it was like this paper was sitting on my desk, and I said, what can we do to resolve the situation? And that's when we pursued this, and we, with everybody's help, and the stone arriving at the right time, everything happening, and most favorably, Dale Haddock and his wife, Janine, arrived bingo at 1 o'clock. He said he's going to be here, and Teddy was here, and we looked at it, and I walked around, and we said, she didn't get exactly where she had identified that she wanted to be, and we didn't want to cause any troubles with that, and that's why we're happy to be in the cemetery. But we found a spot which we all agreed on, which I thought was, I think, you can say what you want. I mean, that's where she is. But her garden was right over here, and her house was right over here, and she's about as close as she can be when she rests. I think that we all. I mean, she may not know how it is, but we know how it is. You know what I mean? And at least we can feel at peace that she's back where she sort of was peaceful. So I also want to remind you that at 1 o'clock we have a luncheon over at the neighborhood house, and anybody else who wants to come who you know, they don't have to come here to be a prerequisite for going for the luncheon. But without any further ado, I'm going to ask John Frazier to talk a little bit about himself and how we got to know Helen and the connections, and he'll talk more, and I guess you'll read the obituary to us. Can you do that?
Okay, I thought we were going to do the 23rd Psalm,
well, we're gonna,
or you did that yesterday?
No, we're going to do that later, but we're going to go through it. But you just say what you want, and we'll just, we never rehearsed this, so let's go through it.
That's the best.
Well, I first met Helen when she came into the bookshop at the University of Pittsburgh Book Center, where I was working, probably 1969, 70s. I can't remember exactly when it was. But anyway, we stayed friends when she moved back to Mott Street in Little Italy. And I moved to Connecticut, and I would come in and visit her. I had dinner once where Helen fixed chicken for her and her mother and me. So that was a memorable occasion on Mott Street. And then, as you read in here, particularly I have a note from Marshall Landy, who Helen taught in the Department of Romance Languages at the University of Pittsburgh. Marshall Landy was in the English department, but they were best friends, and Marcia came up here, stayed with Helen on Jane Street, which is in West Greenwich Village, where Helen moved after she was in Mott Street, on Mott Street to Jane Street, and that's where she died, on Jane Street. Anyway, after she was denied tenure at Pitt, she fought that, and Marcia writes about that in her thing here. And but then Helen, she just picks herself up. She reinvents herself, and she goes to the Psychoanalytic Institute, and she becomes a therapist. And she has a practice on Jane Street. People would come in, and she would talk to them. And I'm sure she was a healing presence. So let's see. I do want to say, in addition to the biographical sketch that David has so wonderfully drawn up, is that Helen was very interested in Proust. She read Proust really extensively. She also was interested in Freud, and she read Freud extensively. And she loved Paris, and she would go to Paris, and she met Ashley at Aix-en-Provence. And so she knew a lot about France, as does her friend Constance. Constance Rose taught with her at Pitt. What did you teach?
Spanish and comparative literature. And actually, Masha and I co-taught a number of courses together.
Uh-huh. And you taught with Helen, right?
No, didn't teach with Helen.
Oh, okay.
But enjoyed her company.
Okay, anyway, Marcia writes, Helen was one of the exceptional human beings who we are so privileged, enriched, who, if we are so privileged, enrich our world. Her deep-throated laughter was the mark of her formidable gifts that conveyed her passion for creative thought. Her lively critical intelligence, and especially her affection and generosity towards her friend. I knew her as a gifted and articulate colleague at the University of Pittsburgh. My hope was that she would be granted tenure so that given her exemplary exemplary work in scholarship and teaching, she could share her qualities with other faculty members and students. After the denial of tenure, Helen fought valiantly to redress her grievances on grounds of age and sex discrimination. When her petition was denied, she forged on to create a productive life in both professional and personal terms that enhanced the lives of many. Her passing diminishes our world.